you guys want to hear a funny joke? A car drives into a group of crowded protesters. Are all the people who get easily offended gone? Cool. Okay, so let's talk Charlottesville for a moment, I guess. So I wanted to talk about a few things that are going on currently. Just the typical outrage, the haha moments, shit like that, just to kind of cover it as whole. I did want to cover some of the things that I was seeing at first, when it first occurred, but I figured I'd wait a second. I'll say one more thing to address and get organized before I start the video. Sorry for the shitty audio. I want to try a different setup with me standing because I tend to speak with my hands more and I'm able to move around. So apologies until I get the audio kind of set up where I can hold the microphone without having to. I just need a longer cord and a laptop. So go to my Patreon. Okay, that aside, I want to cover a few things in this video. One, the reasoning for the supposed alt-right protests. I don't call it protest, I call that intimidating people because you think you're better than them. Fuck you. You are disgusting bags of white trash. And I'm not ashamed to be white because of you, I'm ashamed to be a human because of you. Just let me put that out there. Lord apologizing for all white people and saying we have to do better. I agree with the term we have to do better as people, but her apologizing for the color of her skin and everyone in it is it's kind of dumb. It's really stupid. I'm not going to apologize for being the color I am just because I seem to share that same color with another piece of shit. No. That aside, let's see what's been going on. And see, here's the joys of free speech and why I advocate for it. And I haven't really fully voiced this on my channel. I'm not going to go deep into this, but I find it interesting that assholes like this are allowed to come out, and people are like, why? Why are they not scared to leave their homes? Why aren't they, fearing for their lives? Well, the reason is we have a law called free speech, and people are allowed to voice these very polarizing and unpopular opinions for a reason. They are covered under free speech. Now, there's a difference between free speech and hate speech. And hate speech is speech that incites violence. It incites hateful thoughts and violent thoughts. So, let's talk about that for a moment and why I advocate for it. Now, what they did in Charlottesville is completely disgusting, especially the incident involving the alt-right white nationalist that was driving the Challenger. That is disturbingly awful, and I do not agree with it at all. But here's the thing, is that at the same time I completely disagree with the politics of these people, I can't help but allow them to do what they do. Now, before you get all enraged about that, what I mean is not what they did in Charlottesville, but more if they're allowed to rally, if they're allowed to talk. I can look at every one of those faces, just as we did with this event that's passing now, how we identified every single one of those torch-wielding assholes and now have a Facebook account attached to them and a name. You can do the same thing with anybody with a dissenting opinion. A rally allows you to identify these assholes and make sure you stay 1,000 miles away from them. Or allows you to learn their hateful ways and deconstruct and show people how stupid they are. And that's why I like freedom of speech, is because it allows me to find out what these guys think and why I can understand and then hate them for that. It's just as simple as that. And so, what they did in Charlottesville is not exercising freedom of speech, it's being hateful and violent. Let me just make that clear. Who was subject of causing this violence is white supremacists. There is no all sides. Yes, Antifa was there. Yes, Black Lives Matter was there. But those two people did not incite the violence, or those two groups, if you will. Now, I disagree with the motives and means that these groups inherently have, but they're not the ones that caused this event in Charlottesville, in no way. They were out there, yes, and yes, they were causing problems, but this one falls to the white supremacists. And here's the thing, is that I'm not really liking how this is going online, in the sense that there's a heated debate here and there, one to do with, did Donald Trump cause this, which I will get to in a moment, and two is there's people basically using this event itself to validate Antifa. Disgusting humans that go in and make protests that are normally peaceful, just like these white supremacists did, and make them more violent. How we hate these white supremacists and what they believe in by using violence to push a narrative is disgusting. But using this violent narrative and this violent event itself to push the narrative of Antifa is equally disgusting. It's violence. It's something that this country isn't meant for. Yes, you can argue what this country's values were based on, all the dead bodies that sit beneath us. But that's not you, is it? That's not you that fought and died. That's not you who, did disgusting things. No, that's not you. And you're basically discounting yourself to believe that this is okay. And you're basically discounting yourself to believe that I am validated in being a violent asshole because these guys are violent assholes. It's your exact narrative that validates them and vice versa. And I completely disagree with that. It's horrible to go cause violence where there's violence not needed. Validate and call people Nazis that are not Nazis. What we saw in Charlottesville were Nazis. What you see Antifa beating the shit out of in Berkeley, those are mainly Trump supporters. And I hate to say it, but those aren't Nazis. Not all of them. And that's one thing people have this problem of disconnecting themselves from the group think. It's, if there's one of you, then you're all that. If there's a Bernie supporter that uses welfare and completely lives off the government while everyone else makes money for them, then that's the Bernie way. No. If there's a Trump supporter that hates black people and gays, then that's all the Trump supporters. No. And that brings me to my second point, is a lot of people are like, well, Donald Trump is to blame for what's happening in this country. We're on the brink of nuclear war because of his statements, which, that's a whole nother can of worms. But if he's to blame for this, then Bernie Sanders is to blame for the congressional baseball shooting that nearly killed Steve Scalise. Plain and simple. If you want to blame Trump for this, then you blame Bernie for that, because that guy was an avid Bernie supporter who got a gun, went and attempted to kill multiple Congress members while they were practicing a baseball game. Republican Congress members. Now that's my thing, is that no, Bernie's not to blame for that, and Trump's not to blame for this. Now, while yes, you could say that, well, he facilitated, racists voted for him. Racists voted for many candidates in this country. You think that there weren't people that were racist towards whites that voted for Obama? People sexist towards men that voted for Hillary? It's something that builds, it's something that happens, and use it to market the entire situation itself. That's just not how things work. Well, yes, I understand that these people, like for instance, David Duke said that we're going to do what Trump said we were going to do, and people ran with it. They were just all too happy to say, there's our proof. The man that is elected is a racist because this racist likes him. I seem to remember the California chapter of the KKK, specifically the Grand Wizard or whatever the fuck they're called, endorsed Hillary Clinton in her campaign. Does that make her a racist? No, and I don't think it does. I don't think that... Now, there are certain statements that Hillary Clinton and Trump have both made that make them out to be something that you could say racist, yes. But that's the thing, is that you, like I've said 1,000 times over, is that you go after people for the right reasons. You don't just snap at the chance without thinking about it first. And it makes you look dumb. I've fallen victim of immediately seeing something that fits my narrative, and I jump at it. And that's just a fault of my own, and I'm willing to admit that. But just, it's one of those things that you need to think about before doing. And that's all I'm saying. Now, this whole thing is definitely a tragedy. It's horrible for people to do these things. And I find it disgusting that they think this way. And I don't support them coming out in mass to intimidate people. Normally, you see these rallies happen, and they're boarded off, guarded by police, and everyone's studying every single face there to make sure that they know who that is and not to ever see them again. That's the point of rallies for these people. That's the whole point of everything, really, is that you basically use this free speech to hear everything going on around you, so you know exactly who to associate with and who to disagree with. It helps build things, and I understand that it's very hard to hear perspectives like theirs. It's disgusting. Trust me, I found myself having to shut off certain things I studied just for a moment to think, this person legitimately believes that, and that's horrible. They believe other people are lesser to them based on the pigment of their skin. It's gross. I understand that. And it's hard to be an advocate for free speech when a lot of people point to events like this. It really is. It makes it much harder for me to say, well, I think these people deserve a platform, so we can immediately know that that's the piece of shit I shouldn't be talking to. It makes it so much harder for me to say that, and I completely admit that. Also, I guess to talk about something funny, since I've gotten all serious and whatnot, is there's this funny Twitter account's been reposted on my Facebook multiple times. It's called You're a Racist, or You're Racist, I can't quite remember. But I found something kind of funny, is that I completely agree with I sort of agree with showing these people's names and faces to basically be like, yeah, that's a piece of shit you don't want to talk to. Completely understand, or sort of understand, I don't know, I'm trying to stay in the middle here just for the sake of I don't want to come off as this way or that way. So apologies if I'm a little stumbly. And one thing that I saw that made me lose my shit was they had Joey Salads in there. And the tweet read as such, it was, and here we see the alt-right YouTuber Joey Salads. And it's a picture of him in a Nazi armband. I know what that picture's from. It's from a video where he tried to prove or disprove that Trump supporters were racist. So he wore a MAGA hat and a Nazi armband and Seek-Heiled his way around to see if anyone would surprisingly do it with him. Okay, so I'm going to cut in here real quick. I know this is becoming a thing, but so the wonderful damage control man that Mr. Salads is he went to his Trump Nazi video. So in the title now it says not Charlottesville. It says not Charlottesville. This video was posted on March 6th. I'm going to show a few clips just to meme a bit and show that this was supposedly some dumbass social experiment or prank, but he's just like, I'm not, I swear, the link is in the description for this video. You should look at the tags as they are now. They're hilarious. I wouldn't call him a right winger or anything, but oh, it's fucking beautiful. Oh my god.
What's up, guys? Joey Salads here, and the mainstream media and the left are promoting this narrative that all Trump supporters are Nazis. Aren't we all Nazis?
No.
CNN told me we are.
Why are you watching CNN?
I thought he was Hitler's.
No reason.
Oh, alright, wow. That's depressing.
Nuke it. Just blow it up. All of it. It's done. We're dead. We're screwed.